Hello viewer, and welcome to episode 0 of my Sketchy story series. Today I'll give you the origin story behind why I started drawing fan art and making up slogans for each of them. So, let's get to it. I started drawing things because I was constantly bored at work, doing the same thing over and over again, trying to not fall asleep. We've all been there, I'm sure. In short, my job involved cold calling a lot of companies, basically for market research. So, in an effort to not fall asleep, I started drawing cartoon and anime characters. Specifically, these were characters mainly from the Dragon Ball Z anime and Marvel and DC superheroes. Not only did this keep me awake, but I started to enjoy making things up, i.e. drawing things. Eventually, I thought maybe I could use my drawings to tell a story in the form of a comic or manga, which I did. So, at work, and officially during my lunch break, I would start drawing comics panel by panel. Now, there was no real story behind these, it was just pretty much two fictional characters fighting each other. Later on, I decided to try my hand at making comics with a more fleshed out and elaborate story, but still involve fictional characters fighting each other. I made two large comic stories in my spare time and not during my lunch break. A DC DBZ crossover called Apocalypse in DBZ Dark Side of Gods, and also a Marvel DBZ crossover called DBZ Marvels Devil in the Details. Now from there I feel the artwork needs improvement, but I do feel the storyline I wrote was pretty cool and could also be improved. So if you have any sudden urges to read some poorly drawn comics, my Sketchy Thinks Facebook page has old posts of the whole story there for both comics. I then decided to switch over to digital art because it was 1. Easier to post online, and 2. Saved on paper and ink/pencil ink, which I use a lot drawing the comics. I played around with digital art for a while, and in that time even tried my hand at making a card game, drawing original and not so original characters. I managed to get some friends to play, so thank you guys, you know who you are. Unfortunately, the whole C-word pandemic happened, which of course screwed things over. I did try to set up online play sessions, but it just didn't work out. There were too many technical and game mechanic issues involved. So I continued practicing more on digital art, and this is the part where my fan art comes in, which I'll be talking more about in future through my Sketchy Stories series. So one thing you should know is that I have an unhealthy obsession with puns. Quite frankly, I enjoy the mental challenge involved in making up puns on the spot, regardless of whether the people around me enjoy it or not. So I decided from then on to come up with a punishing slogan for each fan drawing to feed my pun obsession. There are 2 rules I've imposed on my punishing slogans. The first rule is that the pun is meant to complement the character, or in some cases reflect the context of the drawing. I intend my slogans to be in the spirit of the character, regardless of whether they are heroes or villains. That way, hopefully you will have more appreciation for the character, maybe like them more if they're a good guy, and like to hate them more if they're a bad guy. My second rule is to keep the pun PG-13, to make it accessible to as many people as possible, and yes, that involves avoiding swear words. My aim for humour is based on the cleverness of the pun in the context of the drawing or the character, rather than for shock factor. For the technical specs of the drawings themselves, I used the free version of the Medibang Pro app and mostly used the pen drawing tool on 3 pixel thickness. Also, there are 2 main objectives I have when making the fan art. They are number 1, balance the quality and time taken to draw it so I can post something every week, It also gives me an excuse to explain why my drawing may not have turned out so great. And second objective is to add a unique flair to the drawing to hopefully differentiate it from other fan art. And this usually almost always involves drawing the characters in different poses that you may not have seen them in before. So there you have it. This is my summarized origin story for my online fan art. Please stay tuned for more sketchy stories. Thanks for watching and hope to see you again.